The air in the Soviet Union under Joseph Stalin was thick with silence, not the comforting quiet of peace, but the oppressive stillness of fear. This was a nation where whispers could condemn, where loyalty was demanded but never guaranteed, and where one man's vision of progress paved a road of blood and despair. Joseph Stalin, the architect of one of history's most ruthless regimes, ruled with an iron fist, his shadow stretching across the vastness of the Soviet Union like a storm cloud. Born Joseph Bessarionis Dzhugashvili in 1878 in the small Georgian town of Gori, Stalin's early life bore little hint of the horrors he would later unleash. The son of a cobbler and a devout mother, his childhood was marked by poverty and violence. His father's drunken rages left scars, both physical and emotional, that would shape the boy into a man of hardened resolve. Stalin's journey into revolution began as a seminary student, where his exposure to Marxist literature ignited a fire of rebellion. He abandoned his religious studies to join the Bolsheviks, embracing their promise of a proletarian uprising. In the underground world of revolutionary politics, Stalin's ruthlessness became his hallmark. The Bolshevik Revolution of 1917 catapulted Stalin into the ranks of Lenin's inner circle, a position he used to consolidate power. By the time Lenin died in 1924, Stalin had positioned himself as his successor, outmaneuvering rivals like Trotsky with a combination of cunning, deception, and brutality. Once in control, Stalin set about transforming the Soviet Union into a modern industrial state, a vision that would come at an unimaginable human cost. Stalin's five-year plans, launched in 1928, aimed to industrialize the Soviet Union and collectivize its agriculture. To achieve this, he demanded unyielding compliance, using propaganda to paint a picture of progress while unleashing terror on those who resisted. Kulaks, or wealthy peasants, were branded enemies of the state, their lands confiscated, and their families deported or executed. The resulting famine, particularly in Ukraine, claimed millions of lives. How does one justify such devastation in the name of progress? And what happens to a society when survival itself becomes an act of resistance? The Great Purge of the late 1930s stands as one of Stalin's most infamous legacies. Paranoia gripped the nation as Stalin turned his gaze inward, seeing threats in every corner. Political rivals, intellectuals, military leaders, and even loyal party members were arrested, tortured, and executed in a sweeping campaign of terror. The NKVD, Stalin's secret police, filled prisons and labor camps with those deemed enemies of the state. Could anyone feel safe in such a world, where a knock on the door at night often meant disappearance? Under Stalin, the Soviet Union became a land of dualities, of triumphs and tragedies. While his policies propelled the USSR into global prominence, building factories, railways, and military might, they also crushed individual freedoms. Art and culture were co-opted to serve the state, dissent silenced, and fear woven into the fabric of everyday life. World War II, known in the Soviet Union as the Great Patriotic War, marked both Stalin's darkest and most triumphant hours. Yet, through sheer determination and the resilience of the Soviet people, the tide turned. The Red Army's victory at Stalingrad became a symbol of defiance, and the eventual capture of Berlin cemented Stalin's place as a victor on the world stage. But even in victory, Stalin's ruthlessness did not waver. Soldiers who had survived German captivity were branded traitors, their return greeted not with celebration, but with suspicion and punishment. As the war ended and the Cold War began, Stalin's grip on power only tightened. His vision of a Soviet empire extended beyond its borders, imposing authoritarian regimes across Eastern Europe. The Iron Curtain descended, dividing the world into spheres of influence and fueling an arms race that brought humanity to the brink of nuclear annihilation. Stalin's personal life offers glimpses into the psyche of a man who inspired both devotion and terror. His relationships were marked by suspicion and control. His second wife, Nadezhda Alliluyeva, reportedly committed suicide after a heated argument with him, her death casting a long shadow over his inner circle. Even his children were not spared his authoritarian tendencies, with his son Yakov dying in a German prison camp after Stalin refused to negotiate his release. When Stalin died in 1953, his death marked the end of an era but left behind a legacy of division. To some, he was a hero who transformed the Soviet Union into a superpower, defeating fascism and ushering in an age of industrial and scientific achievement. To others, he was a tyrant who sacrificed millions on the altar of his ambition, a man whose paranoia and cruelty destroyed countless lives. The legacy of Stalin's reign forces us to grapple with profound questions about power and morality. Can progress ever justify the means used to achieve it? How does one balance the achievements of a leader with the atrocities committed under their rule? Stalin's life is a stark reminder of the dangers of unchecked power and the human capacity for both resilience and complicity. The millions who suffered under his regime bear silent testimony to the price of his vision, their stories woven into the fabric of history. As we reflect on Stalin's rule, we must ask ourselves, what kind of world do we wish to build, and what are we willing to sacrifice to achieve it? Could something like this happen again? If so, what responsibility do we bear in ensuring that history does not repeat itself? Let us know what you think in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more videos like these.